dude, that's a red flag. All right. Guys who are betas, guys who are, I don't mean it's typecast as a beta if you do this, right? But it is a beta thing. All right. You're going to eat this up. Excessive compliments and things of a woo-woo or spiritual nature, especially very early. Oh, our signs align. Oh, it's meant to be. Oh, a lot of this woo-woo talk. Now, girls can get very sentimental and they can get into that when they're emotionally open to you and they know you well enough and they've had time for a relationship to develop. So if it's several months in and they're doing that, okay, that's one thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if she is within the first couple weeks and the first, you guys are having some really good sex and she is talking about how it's a spiritual experience for her and talking about her signs and all this stuff. I mean, that's not, of course, a deal breaker, but that's a red flag for sure. She'll idealize again, like in some spiritual grand level, your penis is the solution to all the problems. And then that gets into the one-itis, right? So she'll talk about how you are just irreplaceable and there's no one else like you. Now understand, if she's been seeing you for a while, you've had a lot of really intense experiences and you've gone past 6 to 8 weeks into a relationship and it keeps going, she may talk in these terms and then she could be a very healthy person. But even let's say she's 4 months into it and you guys are having this great relationship and sexually, emotionally, she feels the best, better than she ever has been. She may talk about you like, I think you might be the one, or some of these things, that's okay. But she'll still have an element of, we'll see, right? It'll be like, God, seems so perfect for me. I can't wait to see what our future is going to look like, kind of thing, right? She'll have that air of, okay, I understand that there's an unknown future here and more that we need to experience. And that's the air that a healthy woman will have. But an unhealthy woman won't have that. She'll display all of the certainty, how you're the best person that she's ever been with. You're the one. And I know we're meant to be together and our future together is going to be amazing. And this and that and the other, we're going to be, it's like this excessively positive bias, right? It's an excessive positive bias to the point of being unhealthy. Positive thinking is not always healthy, gentlemen. All right. It's not if it's fitting. If your positive thinking isn't rooted in healthy attachment or isn't rooted in reality, let's say, and what's actually happening, then positive thinking isn't good. Negative thinking is worse, but positive thinking to the point where it's so idealized that it just doesn't fit what's actually going on, that's not a good thing. And that's what they do with this one-itis and that you're irreplaceable kind of talk, right? And whereas a healthy girl will be more open to a future and she'll display that with her language. If you're stuck in a BPD relationship right now, this may be difficult for you to hear, but she has said 10, 15, 30 times, depends on her notches, depends on her age, but she has said this like time and time and time again. There's been guys before you that have been the one, and not just a one-off or two guy, right? She's been in love and said, I love you several times to several other men. That's something that probably a girl shouldn't be able to count on one hand, okay, in her whole life, how often she said, I love you, okay, and meant it like, I want to be with this person forever. If she can count more than, and if it's to number 5, she better be like single again at 40. All right. If she's had 1 or 2 boyfriends that she's, I love you to, and you're number 3, and she's, let's say 30, 35 years old. Okay. That makes sense. Right. And I'm not talking when you're kids either. You know what I'm saying? Although there is an emotional element there, they're not emotionally mature. Right. But let's start the count from, let's say 21 onward. Okay. Or, 19, 20, 21, when has an adult mature brain onward. If she's 32 years old and she said, I love you 8 or 9 or 10 times, that's a problem. Okay. That's somebody who's demonstrating not to even have a good, healthy attachment thing. Right. And so you got to keep that in mind. Those of you guys who are stuck, you're not special. And I know you hate to hear that. And they can't, because their validation is so wrapped up in this other person that they hate hearing. They just want to know that they're the alpha. I'm the alpha. I'm alpha. Okay. It doesn't matter. Alpha, beta, she doesn't care. It doesn't matter. All right. You're a supply for her, a disorder. That's what you are. And if that's what you are, there's several other guys that have been that before you. Doesn't matter if you're a better supply or not better supply. It's all subjective anyway. All right. So just, you got to keep that in mind and get your head out of your, if you're stuck in this. Okay. Future faking. That's the thing that they'll do. Girls will do this on the first date. Big red flag. Casually talk about marriage or kids, again, pushing towards the future, oh, like I'm really marriage minded, like all that stuff. Dude, that's a red flag. All right. Guys who are betas, guys who are, I don't mean it's typecast as a beta if you do this, right? But it is a beta thing. All right. You're going to eat this up. If you have an attachment issue, you're going to eat this up. If a chick is on the first date trying to talk about, having milestones with you, like marriage, children, moving in together, and this, she is way ahead of herself, right? She should be on a first date just having a good time with you because she doesn't know you. How does she know that you're the, and it doesn't mean she's BPD, by the way. It could just mean that she's, just has a misplaced ideas of how relationships should develop, which you'll have to determine that based on looking at all the data points, right? But that future faking stuff isn't good. Picturing this future and trying to display this picture of a future that you two will have together someday that's so amazing. And doing that really early, though, where it's just inappropriate, huge red flag. All right. Or it's a red flag, we'll put it like that. So here's another one. Always making future plans. And this will happen down the line a lot of times as the attachment goes and you end up in the relationship, but you're not so much like living together marriage yet, but you're like in that committed phase. She'll always, and actually will work in through the commitment. She'll be always making future plans, back to that idealization of the future. But the important part is she'll keep you doing the future planning and putting you to work to make that planning happen. So she'll have the vision and idea, and then she'll be sharing and pushing you to have the same vision, and then having you do things to make that happen or push that vision forward. And I'm not saying that planning is bad. You got to recognize the difference between healthy and unhealthy patterns here. So she could be, let's plan a vacation right in your relationship. And you're like, cool. And you guys talk about it. And you're both putting effort in to making the vacation happen, right? And deciding, you as the decider of the relationship are like, hey, I'll take care of A, B, and C, or she's and her being a willing and good compliment to your life is saying, yeah, like, you know what, let me take care of this, or I'll research that or whatever. Or, hey, we need to redecorate this room. What do you think? Like, I really want to do this. And you're like, yeah, that sounds cool. Like, that's normal stuff, right? So like, I want to get that out of the way, right? Like all right, that's normal. But like, there's an unhealthy way this happens where she makes it your problem to solve for her emotional well-being. That's something you need to look at. And so not just as so much in the love bombing, but in more like the tail end of the love bombing or beginning of the devaluation phase when things are still sort of good. Well, and even later in the relationship when things are not good, she'll keep you busy is the point, and it'll be working on this future to make her happy. So this is how she keeps you invested and also keeps your mind busy so you don't notice the level of devaluing and basically essentially the level of being used that's happening. So you're being used now, just like that beta male resource. Maybe she made you feel like King Dickenstein alpha man, and now you're, beta Steve just trying to make her happy, right? And then she keeps you busy. And now that's not healthy or good, whether she has a personality disorder or not. So that is a flag, okay? If you find yourself in that situation, you need to start evaluating your situation very quickly. Another thing is using a lot of hyperbole. Again, this is, words like soulmate, forever, always, and being very careless about that. Saying I'm going to plan a life with somebody, that's not saying I'm planning a life with my LTR. That's not a careless statement. Like, that's a big deal. And it took years, for her to get to that place and for, us to get to that place, quite frankly. If she was talking about building a life with me after the first, you know, 6 weeks or whatever of being together, and referring me as her soulmate and forever and always, that is indicating an attachment problem. And if you're eating that up, that's indicating that you have an attachment problem too. All right. If you're delivering that stuff to her, that is indicating that you're using a technique to drag her in to your frame. And you think that that's a good idea. Let me tell you, there's better ways to drag a girl into your frame. You don't have to drag her. Actually, is dragging is what you're doing. There's ways where she hops and jumps and skips right into your frame because you're not doing that stuff, right? And again, I'm not saying that words of affirmation and love words aren't a good thing, but it's being over hyperbolic with it is something you need to look out for. In somebody who does that, that's a bad sign. And if you're doing it, okay, that's something you need to evaluate.